Oh, Jane.
She might show.
Usually last one.
Good evening, Westborough. This is meeting number 23 of FY 2026. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at Memorial Hall inside Town Hall at 34 West Main Street, and it is possible that all or some members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link given in the agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted in the agenda. Additionally, this meeting will broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28 and Charter Channel 192 or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. All right, we will begin and get started. Do we have anyone for the public comments? Please go ahead. And please introduce yourself as well.
Sure. My name's Todd Alexander. I live at 4 Fay Mountain Drive here in Westborough. I'm here this evening on behalf of the board of the Westborough Police Foundation to express our support for the article authorizing the purchase of a command post vehicle. Joining me tonight are fellow board members Adam Boyce, Maureen Johnson, and Maura Shunny. The Westborough Police Foundation is a nonprofit organization formed approximately 7 years ago to support the Westborough Police Department in its efforts to enhance officer safety and improve the quality of service to our community. We do this by helping fund training, equipment, programs, and other critical resources through gifts, grants, and community contributions. One of the foundation's first major goals was to assist the department in upgrading the outdated shooting range. That project was initially estimated at $1.5 million and was anticipated to be proposed for fiscal year 28 with town funding. As many of you may know, the project is now underway and is being funded primarily through the foundation, significantly reducing the financial burden of the town. As the chief has outlined, the proposed command post vehicle would provide critical support for search and rescue operations, school safety and reunification efforts, search warrants and tactical operations, major incidents and disasters, such as the recent blizzard, as well as community and town events. The chief has worked diligently to reduce the cost of this purchase from $474,000 to $282,000, with a portion of those funds contributed by the foundation. We believe this represents a prudent and meaningful investment in public safety, emergency preparedness, and operational efficiency. A mobile command vehicle strengthens the town's ability to protect life and property, enhances coordination with partner agencies, and reinforces public confidence through visible, organized leadership during emergencies and public events. As the chief has stated in the past, this is not a luxury item. It is a necessary forward-looking resource that positions Westborough to meet both current demands and future challenges effectively. We respectfully ask for your support for this article. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name's Adam Boyce. I'm also a board member of the Westborough Police Foundation. Speaking tonight though, as a resident, I had a family member in October that went missing. She has dementia, and they found her 3 hours later in a swamp. Having a vehicle like this would certainly benefit situations like that. And when you look at the cost, $280,000, and you depreciate it over 10 years, you're looking at very minimal investment by the town to make searches like that much more efficient. And you know, time is everything when somebody's missing, and I think having a vehicle like that would certainly help. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Do we have – Anyone else for the public comments? I guess not. Awesome. Thank you for all the public comments you gave. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's move ahead next. I know we had citizens petition, but they couldn't make it this time. So we have the police chief with us. If they have any, police chief, if you have some words, we have kept you on the agenda since you had like to come in. Yeah, that's right. We had you in the agenda. Yes, we had you in the agenda.
The students, a couple were ill, so they're going to come on the 5th of March instead. Just pushed you to the front. No way the crowd can go.
Yeah, you don't want to. Actually, it hid my laptop here from earlier.
Sure. Yeah, we are ahead at this time. So you can take your time.
Yeah. 25 minutes ahead.
So I wasn't really planning on going through the whole presentation because it's, pretty much what I spoke about at the budget summit. By the way, I'm sorry, Todd Manari, your chief of police. Not sure why it's not popping.
I like that picture.
Oh, it's peaceful, doesn't it?
It showed up on that screen briefly.
It should have there as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but I already have it up and it's not showing up. I know. There's technical problems when
That's our
should be extended.
something about yeah, it should. That'll be the figure of merit on that article. It's a year from now if we're still like kind of.
So I'll just click through to a couple screens. So as I said before, we did once have a vehicle similar to this. It didn't have any technology really in it other than a couple radios, but it gave us a workspace and a place to be out of the weather. This was back in the early 2000s. So one of the things I wanted to address that I heard is, and I've heard it from a number of people, how many towns around here have something like this? Frankly, none that I'm aware of. I've said it before. I said it at the budget summit. We prefer to lead and not follow. Okay, I put Westborough first. And just because no other town has one doesn't mean we don't need one. There's a whole list of items here that we were one of the first, if not the first department in the area to acquire. The fingerprint scanner goes back about 20 years. It's an electronic fingerprint scanner. Nobody around here had one when we got ours. Now everybody has them, they have to. The drone, we had one 10 years ago. Nobody around here had one. Now everybody has them. It's what I call a force multiplier, right? It saves time, it's efficient, and it saves manpower. The command post vehicle is the same thing. If I have to set up a command post, I got to send 2 or 3 officers back to headquarters, get a pickup truck, load it up with a bunch of stuff, bring it back to where we are, spend all sorts of time setting it up. Those are officers that should be focused on the incident at hand. With a command post vehicle, I send 1 officer back, they jump in the van, they drive it to the site, we're up and running. That's critical time. Minutes matter. There's, like I said, there's a whole list of things here. A full-time clinician, I wrote a grant for it back in 2018. We were the first department in Worcester County to have a full-time clinician. Does that mean we didn't need one? Of course we did. Now everybody has them. I won't go through the whole list, but I think you get my point. My job as a chief is to focus on the town of Westborough. I don't need to follow Grafton or Northborough or Southborough or anywhere else. My focus is on the town of Westborough and what Westborough needs to be successful to support our community, but to also support our police officers. So the original cost, again, was $474,000. When we didn't get the grant, we went back to the original company that we contacted to build it. We drilled down on some of the equipment. We lowered it to $367,000. We were able to acquire a grant for almost $35,000, and with the foundation's generous gift of $50,000, we get it down to the 282. So the Capital Expense Planning Committee voted to fund the full $474,000. But I didn't just sit back and accept that. I went to work to drill down on the price. And that's because I care and I understand the impact to our community and the tax rate. So again, a bunch of reasons why we need one. It's critical incident response, major investigations, community event management. You know, we have the block party coming up at the end of June, 250th anniversary fireworks. We're going to be inundated downtown with, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 people, maybe more. It's a major, major event. Having something like this makes it a lot more manageable for me and my staff. Without it, even with it, an event like that is a logistical nightmare for me. I'm glad the town's going to do it. It's going to be a great time for all the residents and visitors. For the police department, it's a lot of work. And for me, it's a lot of stress. Because I look at it as 100 different things that could go wrong. We need the technology and we need the equipment to be able to function properly. This isn't a nice-to-have item. We use it for search warrants, search and rescue operations, critical incidents, community events. There's been talk about other organizations that might have command posts. State police have one, of course they do. It's a trailer truck. Are we going to drive that into your neighborhood to manage an event? I don't think so. How long is it going to take to get here? Hours, if it's available. Worcester County Sheriff's Office has a command post. It's about half the size of a trailer truck. Again, are we going to fit that into your neighborhood? No. And it's outdated. And from what I understand, I don't even know what the technology is that's in it. Are any of my officers going to be trained on how to use that? I doubt it. Is it going to be available when we need it? I have no idea. How long is it going to take to get here? I don't know. So this is the way we currently set up a command post. That picture with the tent, that was actually us at a command post in the rain. That middle picture is our drone monitor propped up by a traffic cone. Is that really the way we're supposed to be operating our police department in Westborough? What happens in the middle of the night? Are we supposed to be able to use a flashlight to see what we're doing? How do we charge our batteries for our portables? How do we charge our drone? How do we charge our laptop? What if it was Monday and a child went out to play and the parents didn't know where he went? Are we going to be able to set up a command post in the back of a cruiser in the middle of a blizzard? Not going to happen, folks. This is what the inside of it looks like. It's technology. It's efficiency. It's effectiveness. It's positive outcomes. There's 2 workstations there. There's a TV monitor in the back that we can put up a live site that tracks all our resources and all our staff real time. If we're doing a search, we can see where every officer went, where they searched. We can see if a spot was missed. We can make sure they're not overlapping. We can live stream drone video right to the officers so they can see what's going on overhead. If we have a canine going through there, we can have an overwatch with the drone and we can stream that directly, not only to the canine officer who can see what's up in front of them, but we can stream it obviously back to the command post too. A lot of community benefits. Not gonna, again, keep going over it. I will play you the video again because I think it explains it very simply. And yes, this was a successful find, but it was dark. It was cold. It was about 30 degrees that night.
Yeah, I'm looking for someone who's lost.
One simple thing goes wrong, we maybe don't find this lady.
3:30 come in. I have a female yelling in the woods. Beth, Beth, we're coming. We're coming, Beth. Beth, we're coming. I got it. 3:35 has it. Making contact now, 3:35 has it. Hello? We've been looking for you. Let's get you out of the woods, all right?
Every year, our officers support events that bring this community together. From large road races to town gatherings, we work to keep thousands of residents safe. Whether it's a holiday celebration, a family event, or a moment that defines Westborough's spirit, our goal is to ensure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. Graduations, ceremonies, and major school functions all require coordinated planning, communication, and supervision. But the same resources are needed when tragedy strikes, when a crash occurs, or when unpredictable emergencies unfold. What should be a unified command operation often becomes a challenge. Rain, darkness, cold weather. These are the conditions our officers routinely work in. Yet we're still relying on the back of a patrol car as our command post. Missing persons, search and rescue, severe weather responses. These incidents require organization, coordination, and rapid decision-making. Even during planned public events with large crowds, our ability to manage resources is limited by the equipment we don't have. Right now, this is what our command center looks like. Clipboards on a trunk, laptops balanced on gear, radios, papers, and people crowded around improvised workspaces. This slows communication, increases risk, and hinders our ability to lead multi-agency responses. A dedicated mobile command vehicle changes that. It gives us a protected workspace, reliable communications, real-time coordination tools, and the ability to manage any major event, planned or unplanned, with efficiency. This is about readiness. It's about giving our officers the resources they need and giving this community the response it deserves. With your support, we can replace improvisation with preparation and give our officers the tools they need to command with confidence wherever duty calls.
So really just wrap it up again. Minutes matter, all right? We're talking about lives when we talk about critical incidents. It's not negotiable. Outside resources probably aren't available, and they're gonna take too long to get here. Community events need proper coordination. And, another thing I wanted to mention is even our local policies, we have an all hazards policy at the police department on how we deal with hazards. It requires us to have a command post. State and federal regulations, FEMA, requires us to have a command post. I don't think in this day and age, the back of a cruiser standing out on the side of the road is adequate. Not in our community. It's not what I expect. And frankly, a no vote is a vote against public safety, and it's a vote against your own safety, and it's a vote against our officers' safety. And I also have an obligation to support my officers that are out there doing a very difficult job under very difficult circumstances. So I really appreciate your support. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Thank you so much, Chief. And I think I want to begin with appreciating the fact that you have not just brought an article to us, but also you have made an effort to try and help the community from the financial standpoint, by helping reduce the cost I mean, it's unbelievable that I still remember on the summit you had mentioned around 400 something. I don't have the exact figure right now in my top of my head. 484 or 474.
474.
474. And when we heard about it in the article version 6 that it has come down to 284, that was surprising. And we wanted to know how you did the magic. So good to see how the magic was run. But I think I want to say that I want to help you because we want to get this to the town in a way that they understand the benefits of it. And from AFC standpoint, that's what it will need for at least my support, because I want to make sure that the town understands as much as I do as well. So I think my first question there, Chief, would be, how do you anticipate, I mean, you have already explained exactly how you anticipate it to be used. My concern or my question would be, how many times in a month or a year do you anticipate it to be used based on the historical figures? I had a comment just now that, and even one case for me, if it is helpful, it matters, because if someone is lost and you need that coordinated response, it matters. So it's not really about, oh, I want to project like 300 cases or 200 cases, but from town standpoint, I think what might matter is to understand how many such cases do you anticipate, and what historically has happened where, the town can better appreciate. It's not just a case of somebody getting lost, but it could also be events maybe. And how many times do we have those events? So if you could support with, I think, some kind of statistics on those. And
Yeah, I did that at the budget summit as well, but I can tell you that, first of all, in public safety, our job is to prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yep.
All right? So how many times and everything is great, but we probably have 15 plus community and town events that would be used at. We had 33 drone deployments last year. It would have been used at most of them. Some of them were extended periods of time. We've served numerous search warrants every year, numerous serious drawn-out investigations for car accidents, a number of situations where we have extended period of time for crime scene investigations. This is like a mobile office. We bring it to a crime scene where our techs are processing a crime scene. We can have someone in the command post logged into our records management system, entering the evidence as it gets brought out, rather than bagging it all up, having to bring it to the station and then go back through it all to enter it all. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of ways it would get used that we haven't had the opportunity to use it. But again, if it got used 3 times and it saved someone's life, then I'd say it's worth it. There's a lot of equipment that you need to prepare for worst case scenario that might not get used all the time. How often does the fire department use their ladder truck? Do they use it 40 times a year? I doubt it. But if they need it once, they need one, right? What happens if they don't have it? Like, it's not a question. You have to prepare for the worst case scenario.
thank you.
And I want to be clear that this is a communications vehicle. There was a comment that we were militarizing the police department. There's nothing militaristic about it. It's a communications vehicle. We need to stay on top of technology. We need to use it to our advantage.
Can you speak about what kind of technology does this vehicle has? I mean, what?
Well, I spoke, somewhat about what it is, but it's radio communications. It'll have all 3 bands of radios in it. It's got the 2 workstations. We can log into our records management system. We can log into a criminal database. We can log into the registry. It's got, it's got scene lighting. If we were at a scene, you can light up the scene outside. It's got a telescoping mast on it that has a camera. So we can, like, if, say we're at high school graduation, we could put the mast up, watch the graduation, see the surrounding areas, make sure there's no issues. It's got the screens that are multiplex. You can set them into a number of different views that you want to watch in there. You can fly the drone from it, watch the drone inside. It's got the tracking system for all your resources, where you can see all your men or your officers live time. I mean, it's got Starlink. I'm not saying we necessarily need it, but we could put it in there. I'm not a tech guy. I leave that up to people that are smarter than me, but it's got a lot of, it's just a Ford Transit van. That's all it is. They're not expensive. The money is in the technology.
So what's the lead time in getting this vehicle, and what's the time required for the officers to get trained in using this vehicle?
Speaking with the owner of the company, he said they can probably do it in a few months. Training, and the great thing about this is anyone can drive it, right? You don't need special training to drive it. So we get inside, we learn how to run the technology aspect of it. We do that on duty. It's like roll call.
And do we have any specific vendor or maintenance cost associated with this? If something breaks down, then do we have specified like vendors, or is it a vendor? How's that running?
Well, I'm sure everything comes with a warranty, but I mean, as far as maintenance costs of the vehicle, it's no different than the car you drove here. I mean, you got to change the oil once in a while. It's not going to get a lot of miles on it. This is not going to be a high mile vehicle. I can see it lasting 15 years. It's going to go from headquarters to the scene of an incident, and it's going to sit there, and we're going to shut it off because it runs on a battery. It doesn't even have a generator in the back. It's a battery. And it's all climate controlled. It's got air conditioning, heat, lighting, everything you need. And it can even take shore power. So if you're at a place where you can plug it in, you can plug it in and it'll run off that. The battery gets low, you start it up. It's got a high volume alternator. It'll charge the battery back up quickly.
Got it. And are there any like a particular vendor or vendors who are providing this vehicle?
So Accelerated Media is out of Auburn. They build these. They ship them all over the country. There's not a lot of companies that build these. It's all covered by contracts. It's the purchase of the vehicle is no different than purchasing a cruiser. They're all under mass contracts. All the upfitting and all the equipment we buy, it's all under contract. It's all contract price.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Is there any company who
I wanted
provides?
to make a comment though, if you guys can hear me, it's Saroja. I actually do think that it will make the position stronger, Chief, if we can show percentage of usage, the incident rates. While we're using the example, like, do we have to show how often a fire truck is used? But I think, in fact, if I understood, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the example of, the missing individual with dementia, the police force was able to locate her in the absence of a mobile command center. And so one might question, well, maybe it took a little longer, but she was found, and the police force did a great job. So in order to kind of more effectively address why, the mobile command, center would be needed, I think it would be wise to show how, even in the situation, why a mobile command center would have decreased the time. I think we do need some more quantitative information. And I say that because, we certainly want to support this, and that's just my perspective on it. I don't know, especially in this time of economic tightness, just simply saying even having it one time will be a great thing. I just don't know how much people will resonate with that, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Walter.
Okay. I just thank you for the presentation. I just thought that when you're going through lists of leading, I think you skipped maybe a big one, which is to me the accreditation effort that the force went through a few years back. I thought that was sort of kind of novel for our area too. Is that not the case?
Uh,
At that,
A
at
lot
that
of the-
higher level?
So when we got accredited, across the state, there are a lot of agencies that are accredited. There's a lot more getting accredited. We certainly weren't the first around here, but it's,
Okay.
since police reform came, like a lot more departments are going through accreditation.
It's an example of leadership.
Yeah, I agree.
Good, no, good.
Just a quick observation, not even a question. Your department's developed a really good muscle memory for being able to talk about how it uses its cars so that we can continue our program of the regular replacement. And I think the metric you've always used has been miles, and then you figure out the calculation for idle time. So I think that's very helpful, but I think this vehicle is going to present some very different need to capture and manage statistics about usage, because to your point, usage is an important part of this. I think it resonates with more people when you capture that. If you guys are able to get this vehicle, I would recommend early on putting in a system of tracking some manner of measure of value to the town to be able to talk about where this is providing the value, just as a communication point.
Be happy to do that.
Yeah, just an observation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I think, I had concerns about it as well. And I think more from balancing our budget in terms of what we can fit within and expend. Oh, I'm sorry, sure. I had concerns too from looking at our affordability, balancing our budget, the town's budget and the taxpayer budget. But you made it a case for me, and especially with Adam giving a real, example of instances that happen. Because my first question was going to be, what is the utilization of the vehicle? You made a good case around, fire truck number 1, with the ladder truck. How often is that used as well? But I think you made it real, and for me particularly, and a bit more compelling case for it. So I support this. Just listening to the information that you imparted today. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I think the town manager could speak to it a lot better than I can, but I think it's a unique year where, there was room before the town hit their cap on the use of free cash. So I think it's, in a unique time where this might be a good time for this project.
And could we also acknowledge, the Westborough Police Foundation, all the great work that they've done in supporting both the police department and also the Westborough Fire Foundation as well, supporting our safety organizations and providing a huge impact to the town of particularly around expenses and items that, would normally be expended by the town. These are things that really need to get done by these foundations. So I really applaud all the efforts of these organizations.
That's why we started them.
Absolutely, second that. Yep. Yep, go ahead.
I'm curious, how did you get the price down? I know about the grant and the police, but
So when we initially were applying for a grant, we put some stuff in the vehicle that wasn't completely necessary. Like instead of having the telescoping mast, there was a drone system they can install, which was very expensive. And instead of using that, we went back to the telescoping mast. That was the biggest savings.
okay. So you pulled out some equipment to lower the price, and then you have the two.
Right.
And I'm the one that made the comment about militarizing our police force. And I think going back to the summit meeting, one of our select people had asked you, could we make it white?
Do you know why I put the white one on there?
Because in this
So
day,
let me just be clear, that when the video, and it's going around the black command post vehicle,
Yeah.
that's just a file
Yeah.
video from a company.
can we make it white?
I'm not going to commit to making it white.
It's just in this day and age, these type of vehicles create
I don't
fear.
understand why black is bad and militaristic, to be honest with you. I just,
Well,
but
'Cause they have-
everyone has their perception, and that's fine. I don't understand it personally, but
Well,
understand.
maybe through 24 years in the military, they were always black. You know, like an what do they call them? The trucks that they used or whatever. But
Okay.
anyway, that's just a thought.
Before the police chief leaves, could we also look at the new warrant article 19 to see if we can get, or is it for Christie to get a little clarity around the new warrant article?
The change of scope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, on the study?
You done? Are you good with me?
I think it's the two of you.
It's mixed, yeah.
Well, this is
It's
on
the
the,
organization
You can explain
assessment
it
team.
better than I.
Yep. Thank you.
But don't go far.
You don't want to miss all the refreshments.
yeah, when are those coming?
I'm still waiting.
You're still waiting.
Christy, you missed bringing cookies to the budget
I
summit this
know.
year, so
I felt
maybe-
terrible. Yeah. I have Papa Seltzer here, but that's about it. So see. So the police department study that you were talking about is now Article 19.
Right.
Um,
So is that basically pulling the fire study out, leaving just
Yeah.
the police?
Yes. So, so we have the Article 19 is the former police and fire organizational assessment study. Now it's just a police department organizational assessment study, and that's because we have a new Article 20, which is the fire services regionalization study. I'm assuming you'll want the fire chief to come back to talk about that. I can talk a little bit about it. Ultimately, the fire chief and I have been talking for a while about the potential for, or the sort of the future of fire services, and all over the country, you see fire districts operating to support communities, but that's very different here in Massachusetts, where every community has their own fire department. And so we have talked about. We have talked with Southborough about regionalizing the fire department. We're at the very beginning stages of this. The fire chief presented some things that might come out of the feasibility study to the select board on Tuesday. But we're very interested in creating a feasibility study, initiating with Southborough, and the article is on here to fund Westborough's half of that study. But we are really hopeful, because it's so innovative and we would be the first in the state, that we could get some good partnership and support from the state, which supports regionalization, and then maybe not need the 50,000 that's in here. But going back to talk about the Article 19 for the police department, I've talked to you about it before. I have encouraged everyone to go and look at those reports and assessments. I did some very quick slides here. As you've noted, we have a police department study. It was done in 2019. But I can't stress enough that it is not a comprehensive study for the organization. It is a review of the rank of patrol. So up here you can see there are 4 recommendations of that study. One is to add 5 additional police officers. The next is to review it annually to make sure police officers have 600 to 700 calls per officer, review work schedules, and then look at positions that might become civilian positions. So as you've watched the chiefs, or the previous chief, and then Chief Minardi, since we have that study, we've certainly talked a lot about the need for increased staffing in that department based on the call volume. And he has done some very innovative things by adding the corporal rank. When we had a very long-term civilian position retire this year, we looked at that position, we made some changes. But again, it is a look at one rank in the police department, and it's from 2019. The fire department study is a very different study. That's one that was done in 2018, and it's a comprehensive study. I was trying to count just before I came up here. I think there's over 75 recommendations in that study. They look at the whole organization, so it's not just a staffing study. It's not just looking at how many additional people we can add throughout the organization. It identifies staffing needs, grant opportunities, excuse me, capital needs and equipment, software, public relations, all these different things. I won't read it to you, but all these different things that the fire department can do to improve as an organization and serve the community. And that was based on interviews that were done at that time and other community members participating. This specific scope for the police department would include community input and would really build an organizational assessment, but more importantly, a strategic plan for Chief Minardi and his department to move forward. This particular study was a 10-year study. Chief Purcell is coming up on the end of that 10 years. He's accomplished almost everything within that study. And I think that having someone come to your organization and who does this, and it has a view of not just your organization in that moment, but also other organizations and how they might perform similar services, is incredibly helpful and really creates a roadmap for the future of the department.
Any questions?
Question, so does it make sense to look at the two organizations separately or at the same time? Because isn't there impact from one organization to the other?
For police and fire?
Yeah.
So the way that we had established the original article was that we would hire one consultant, but it would be 2 reports. And the value of that is that when you're going out and doing the community engagement portion, you're able to talk to people one time about police-specific issues and services, and then fire-specific issues and services. The reason that we pulled the fire department out is because if you're creating sort of the next 10-year strategic plan, that will look very different if we regionalize. And so rather than continue to ask for that $100,000 and then come back and say, well, maybe we might do something very different with regionalization, we want to focus on that feasibility study, see if regionalization is the right path for the fire department, and then assuming it is, or even if it isn't, we would then want to create that strategic plan for however we as a community decided that fire would move forward in the future.
But is it more short-term, at least for the fire department, it's going to be much more impactful looking at what the impact is going to be on a second fire station and what the impact of those potentially new developments that are coming into town on both the fire and the police.
So
And
the
those-
oh, sorry.
And those haven't been worked out yet. So I'm kind of sitting here going, is it a bit premature? Let the studies run out for another year or two, defer it. What's the impact, which I don't understand if there is an impact or not. And then do it when we have better information on, a substation and, all the planning units, and look at potential regionalization, which would be.
So there's always going to be a future development. So I don't know that we'll get to a point where we'll say, okay, now we understand that. So now we know what the next 10 years will look like.
Do you know enough now?
Related to the substation, if we end up regionalizing with Southborough, that substation project might look very different in terms of, how it's built out, who's paying for it. Does it function as a substation? Does it function as a headquarters? It's really, again, it's very different when you look at the feasibility of that regionalization. And if we're doing 2 paths in parallel here, I think we're going to end up spending money on a study or a plan that we don't use because we can't go in both directions with the fire department.
So this is for the chief. So chief, if we were to delay the study for a year or 2, what would be the impact to your organization?
Well, we're already short-staffed, so if we're not going to address that for another 2 years, then that's going to be impactful.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. What's the what are you seeing as the value of waiting 2 years?
I think you know a little bit more around the fire department as well as letting the study run out. I mean, it's 2018, the 10 years haven't run out yet.
Right, it has for the police department. It has not for the fire department.
Yeah.
And
But originally we thought you'd get better efficiency by running them at the same time. Again, back to getting input from the
Right.
townsfolk.
But now we're not asking for we're asking for a very different type of study for the police department.
I'm just, again,
If the
balancing.
fire department, if
Right.
regionalization makes sense, the study for that would be of the region and not necessarily just our town. So you would lose the synergy anyway,
Right,
if
right.
there is that much synergy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, again, balancing the budget. We've got a couple $100,000 coming out of free cash for studies, between we've got the land management plans, we've got the police, we've got the fire, and then we've got the town and the schools. So do we need them all, and do we need them all now? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, it's a
And
good
if-
question. I mean, I think the land management plan, I think, is a very different type of plan. The other ones are looking more at our organization. I think the efficiency study is something that this committee in particular has asked for many times in terms of looking
Yeah,
at this.
and I'm not saying anything around I'm not arguing the quality of those or the need for those. It's just a lot of consulting dollars that we're looking at one bolus at a time.
Yeah,
And-
I think
and-
it's because we're at a point where we are needing that information in order to move forward. I mean, create efficiencies between school and town is potentially a cost savings in the future. The regionalization with the fire department is directly responsive to what this committee has challenged us with over and over, which is to be innovative and think outside the box. Chief Minardi, looking at the future of his organization and the changing needs of the police department and just policing in general. I understand it's coming at the same time. We always get a little bit concerned about bringing studies forward because I think people have these similar questions. But in order for us to move forward, we do need these types of plans.
Say that this gets approved. Do we have a detailed scope of work for this consulting company to do the analysis which we are asking them to do?
For
I
the
mean,
police,
right now, what we see is at a very high level, but that is probably not enough for them to do any kind of analysis. So did both departments come up with a detailed scope of work as to where would they like to spend time and effort in doing the analysis?
for the police department, I think we do have a scope, a draft scope that we could share. The fire services is obviously something that's come up it's very new in terms of that feasibility study.
And would it be the same consulting company who will be doing the both, or is it different vendors?
I think that initially, because we thought we were doing the same study, it would be the same vendor. The feasibility study for regionalization could be something different. We would certainly tailor it with any consultant that has that type of expertise.
So without knowing who the vendor is, how can we say that the 200K is sufficient? I mean,
Because we received, well, this is 100,000, so I didn't make that clear. So now the police department organizational assessment, Article 19 is 100,000. And that's based very specifically on quotes that Chief Minardi received when he was looking for what the cost may be for that.
And the fire's 50. So we were at 200 for the both of them together, but now we're 150,
Yes.
100 and then 50.
Right, so
Right,
the
'cause-
scope is very different.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, the fire study is really 100 because Southborough would have to
pay their share.
50K also.
Or we get other funding, but yes.
Right.
Do we know they're gonna
Or
fund
other
it?
funding.
What if they
No,
don't fund it?
We don't know that Westborough is going to fund it. How would we-
Well, what if they don't fund it?
It's got to go to their town
go to
meeting
the
too.
town.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Cool.
It's
Any
the
questions?
truth of all this stuff.
No,
Remotely?
thank you.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Prashant, there's a question from the
Sorry.
audience.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I know, and I'm tuning the night for select board also, but it is, at home, I can hear you just fine. But here in the room, if you guys can try a little bit more to speak into your microphones, it's just difficult in the background. So I know you feel like you're speaking at
What-
a normal.
We're not used to having people here. Huh?
We never actually.
We usually have a conversation amongst ourselves. So.
I just want to hear you. But
Okay.
That would be really helpful. So find a microphone and you keep your mouth like about that far away from the microphone, and then the room mics can pick you up. Again, the TV mics are picking you up just fine. You've had great team so far. So let's make from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that feedback. You want to do a test?
Are they all working?
We're good.
Next.
All right. Thank you, Chief, for the presentation, and Christy. Next, we move to the school department, and we do have Ellison, our school superintendent. If you can, please come forward for the school department articles.
Are we?
Well, we had the students
We-
come
yeah.
tonight, so We skipped.
Don't challenge us.
Yeah, don't challenge us. We can make up,
She jinxed it.
Take it as a
but it did put us ahead of schedule.
5 minutes.
I'm already supporting you.
All right. So my understanding is just a quick review with a little bit of a deeper dive into a couple of the slides, and then I'm just sort of all yours for questions, because I think that's why you're really here.
Yes, I mean, just to clarify, it's the operational budget as well as the 3 articles where school is the proponent. It will
Sure,
be helpful to
absolutely.
understand those. Yep.
Don't forget your microphone.
And I'm not going to forget my microphone right here. Hopefully that works. Karen, can you hear me? Oh, wonderful. Okay. Just a quick overview. As you're aware, the budget increase request for this year is just under $3 million, $2,937,363, which is a 4.17% increase over last year. That increase brings us more in line with the type of increase we saw pre-pandemic, which I think is a good thing. We are trying to work to get some of the cost inflation under control as best we can, or the price inflation of the schools. And this is where you can see that in context. You do notice after FY21, this big sort of surge in kind of the growth of the school budget. And really that had to do with post-pandemic needs that were here and very real, and also some inflationary pressures that you're aware of that we've talked about before, which I will also review really quickly here. A quick reminder, schools are all about people. We actually redid this after the last version that you've seen. We refined it a little bit in terms of how we're categorizing to align with some data that we provided the committee about FTE over the past several years. So we've kind of made it all match up for you. But you can see where the people are in the organization. So we have the overwhelming majority of folks are student facing, including faculty, which make up just under 60% of our workforce, our paraprofessionals, which are about 20% of the workforce. And then the other buckets are for administration and district staff, facilities and food services, administrative support, and a tiny little group of either 9 or 10 tutors, 9 actually if they're 50. In terms of kind of how we got to where we got with the proposed calculation for salary increase, since that is the biggest slice of the pie in terms of our budget. We started with the salary budget from last year, which is just under $59 million. We added projected increases. Just as a reminder, we are in collective bargaining with most of our bargaining units right now. We did some math around where we believe we can land those contracts. We're getting very close, we think. And we are committed to living within the budget that we've created. So if we can't figure out the money part, it means we will have to make some reductions in terms of staffing or services. We have already built into our budget an assumption about some staffing reductions, and those are related to both reorganization and to declining enrollment. And that brings us to a staffing budget that is just 3.87% increase total over last year. So that's where we got there. Okay. We are committed to really trying to make those reductions for our staff happen through attrition to the extent possible. We are looking at reorganizing how we do some curriculum support also. We have a new assistant superintendent. We've looked at it together. We're trying to make that work smoothly and well across the schools. As you're well aware, our enrollment is down. That's a trend that's happening throughout much of the state. And I think that is something that is projected to continue. And this is a little snapshot of enrollment by grade. And you can see
as that group of younger grades moves through the system that we will see an impact down the road. So we were able to reduce a number of positions in the K-3 schools last year. We're reducing a position at Mill Pond. This year, we may be able to reduce more at Mill Pond and Gibbons as those students sort of move up, and then the wave will kind of hit the high school. One just word of warning is reductions are much harder to make at the middle and the high school level because of the structure of school. High school teachers and students are organized into teams, so you don't reduce a classroom, you have to kind of figure out how to reconstruct teams. And at the high school level, obviously, when you reduce teachers, you also impact the options that are available to students. We may be looking at classes with low enrollment. Those are very valuable to some students, but may be undersubscribed compared to other classes. And those are going to be some tough choices we have to make in the years ahead. These are the actual reductions that we made. Or are proposing to make. One classroom teacher at Mill Pond School, so they'll be down a section next year. One ESL teacher at the high school, that is an enrollment-based decision as well. One of our curriculum coordinators, we're going to consolidate some of the positions and split out the duties for those roles at the elementary level. And then we have a position in the budget that has been used over the past 3 years to support our co-teaching model. It's this innovation position. It's been wonderful for us. This is an individual who is a part-time instructional coach and professional development provider for our teachers, and the rest of the time the person is a teacher. She's a tremendous educator, so she will move back into the classroom full-time, which allows us to make a reduction. You know, it's a loss for us for sure, because that is a position that was added several years ago with the idea that once we were done working on one project, we could shift it somewhere else. My hope is if we can ever get it back, that we would shift it and bring somebody on board that would help us figure out what to do about AI, since that's sort of the biggest challenge facing us right now in education. Maybe not the biggest, but it's one of the big ones. You know, I've mentioned this before, our special education out-of-district costs in particular are a major driver of budget increase right now, and you see that reflected in the totals. This is the graph since FY22. You see the expended, last year's budgeted, and this year's proposed. It's been a tremendous increase over time. The good news is the state has heard from the Superintendent's Association. I was actually at a legislative breakfast this past Monday. I'll be at another one next week where kind of groups of superintendents are meeting with legislators in order to focus their attention on some of these issues. This is a big one. We are asking the state to consider increasing the circuit breaker reimbursement rate to 90% for both tuition and transportation. Right now it's been at 75% for tuition and lower, and it vacillates a little bit for transportation. I think the last was like 60 most recently. Yes.
I heard something, I think it was on the news or something, but that Massachusetts is actually one of the rare states that does the pay from
Pay in
2 years
arrears,
later, or whatever,
yes.
a year later circuit breaker. We maybe we came up with it early on, but we're doing it in a strange way as a state versus other states are sort of paying for it in the year of the use.
Yes.
Which seems offhand a better approach.
One nice bit of news, the Office of the Inspector General has really dug into transportation and out-of-district special education transportation in particular. They issued a big report this week, and I'm happy to send it to you. It basically says, here's the situation in a nutshell, and here's some recommendations for what to do about it. And it really does touch on that issue as well. You know, our other cost driver related is all transportation, not just special education transportation, but big bus transportation has been climbing. I put some additional information into this slide so you can see FY26 this year, we were up by over 12%. This first year of a contract with our big bus company, NRT. The next 2 years are lower. So looking at FY27, that's going to drop to 2.44%, which is great. However, when you look at our out-of-district transportation costs, they aren't dropping. Those seem to only be going up. We are budgeting for 9%. These are much harder to budget for because they're not predictable. So, whereas we kind of know what the bus routes are going to be in town, we know how many students we're going to have, how many buses, what the regular drumbeat is. For out of district, it's very much dependent on students, where they go to school, how old they are, whether we can collaborate with other school districts. We are part of a collaborative, the Assabet Valley Collaborative, and through that group, we actually join forces with other districts in order to sort of use our purchasing power to try and save some money with our out-of-district transportation. And even with that, our FY25 numbers, we had a big gap between what we had budgeted and what our actuals were of over $400,000. So that's not the sort of thing we want. So you see this bigger bump up in terms of the amount that we've budgeted for out of district. It's because we can't afford to have a gap like that and land the plane at the end of the year. Yes.
Does the report which you were talking about earlier,
Yes.
does it talk about what are the possible options as to how we can control this? Because at this rate, we can't control what the out-of-district costs are going to be. for travel.
Right. It does have recommendations. I'll be honest, I got it yesterday. I've not read the whole thing yet. It's very long, but I think it does present, as well as sort of sketching out the problem, it does propose some potential solutions for the state to consider. It really is sort of a situation where the state's going to need to intervene somewhat. Yeah.
Right. I mean, right now we are seeing at 9%, but going forward, it could be more than that.
It could be,
It becomes
yeah.
really challenging for us to handle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and honestly, the other members of the board, so as a part of a collaborative, we have representation on the collaborative board. I happen to sit on that board, and that board has spent a lot of time over the last year really discussing transportation, what to do about it, how to kind of bring those costs down for all the member districts, and if there are other ways to come about it. So everybody is kind of looking at the problem.
It's good.
So this slide is familiar to you. It's the major categories. I added a notes section here just to sort of give some, color commentary. On salary, just a reminder, we do have collective bargaining ongoing right now. We are currently in bargaining with our teachers union and our paraprofessionals union. We're going to start with custodians next week, and we'll have our administrative assistants and tutors after that. I put the note about out-of-district impact for both special education and transportation. When you see those escalations, that's really what that is. And I do want to make the note that number for special education does not, it's not about the number of students going up, it's about the price tag of the programming going up. And that's another thing that's very much beyond our control, unfortunately. Although there's a government agency, I guess the Operational Services Division at the state that sets rate increases. Some of the schools to which our students go are able to appeal above and beyond that rate increase by going through a reorganization process. Basically, if they restructure how they deliver services within the school, they can escalate the costs beyond the percentage points that they're allowed. Our utilities are a projected number, and then the buildings and grounds number, I think I mentioned this before, includes a buffer in the event that one of our other warrant articles, which is a borrowing article for the high school roof, does not pass. We were advised to increase our operating budget to account for some repair work that might be needed because the roof is on its last legs. So. And here are the articles. So the first one that will pop up on the warrant is under 11B. It's the Hastings Playground. This is to ask for $150,000 of community preservation funding allocated toward replacing our playground equipment at Hastings. This is, partly an effort that we've made in response to feedback from the Capital Planning Committee last year about seeking out some grant funding, other types of sources instead of the putting it all into a borrowing article at town meeting. So we were successful there. We also have grant applications out to another couple of places. We anticipate that if this passes and we receive this funding, we would be actually using it the next year. So we would be going out for additional funding in order to complete the project after the town meeting in 27. I'll pause in case you have questions about that one.
Is there a particular reason if you're using it next year to get it this year, I guess is.
I think partly so that we can do some planning, honestly. We wanted to once we knew we had this in hand, it allows us to kind of go forward with some other things. We were looking at the parking lot in general, some safety issues in the parking lot, which actually relates to Article 24, which is the property transfer. We're hoping to create a second egress out of that lot. And all of those things kind of combined will impact where a playground might go, what configuration it would have, things like that. So it's a complicated process that's going to take us a little while.
That makes sense.
And having that money, could that help in the grant search or something somehow?
I hope so. I mean, I think it shows community commitment to the project, which could help with grant funding for sure. And I really appreciate, I think we got a lot of support from the community in order to apply for the CPC funding. So from, the recreation department, youth sports, civic club, just to name a few. It was great. And the PTO, of course, the parent organization. The second article is yes.
Sorry, forgive me. If you're going to get to Article 22, I'll just hold off on my question. If you're going to go through all the articles.
I was planning on going through them.
Yeah, let's go through all of them.
Okay.
And then
Perfect.
Sure.
thank you.
Sure. The Gibbons Fieldhouse article, the good news is this is actually down in cost. We originally had, it's funny, we've been back and forth on this a little bit. Our original idea was to replace the roof. We went out and did a little bit of investigation. Our initial quotes were coming in really high, so we said, well, maybe we should pivot and look at demolition. We got a quote for that and put forward an initial plan to the Capital Planning Committee. The school committee wanted to try and look at, can we keep the property? So they formed a subcommittee, did a little extra work on this, and were able to come up with a much lower price tag for the roof. So I think that's great. So this is a simpler repair just to the roof and to some minor carpentry work that we think and will get done sometime this summer. On Article 15B, that is our large borrowing article this year. It's the high school A and B roof. I've talked with you about that. It's the original 1968 roof. It's so far holding up under the storm, but my concern is more about high winds after the snow is off of it. So Article 22 is something that the town manager approached me about. We had been talking about, and actually in response to questions from this committee and from the tri-board meetings about the possibility of finding some operational efficiencies by looking at ways that the town and schools can work together, whether that's through combining of positions or services, and really work together on behalf of the citizens, whether that's better services or cost savings. And so there used to be grant funding available for this, and unfortunately that grant funding has dried up. And this is funding that would help support a consultant fee to come in and help us navigate that process. It is something that's great to have an outside pair of eyes on. When you are in it, it is hard to see where the options are. So I'm actually really hopeful that we can find somebody good. I know Christy has leads on possible organizations, and if she's still here, she's
Right behind you.
Behind you all the way.
fantastic.
And it's now 21, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it now
Article
21?
21.
Yeah, that's what was
I was
confusing.
going off last night's or two nights. My
They
apologies.
changed. They're done changing.
Okay, all right.
finished.
Got the final version.
Yeah.
I can update that. Any questions on that? Was that?
No, I mean, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
I do. So my comment is that the expectation would be that we anticipate a operational efficiency that exceeds $75,000. Is that a reasonable expectation? Why do I say that? Because if we're going to spend $75,000 on the consultant, then we should have a very reasonable, or I should say, a very high probability of an efficiency anticipated that exceeds that amount. But what I have a question about, and what's not clear to me, is where is the evidence or justification that would suggest that we anticipate a greater than $75,000 value in terms of operational efficiency to justify that? And that is the piece that's not clear to me. If you have any comments on that, Allison, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, I can say currently to my awareness, we don't have combined positions in this municipality, but I have come from a town where they did, and were able, for example, to hire one electrician instead of two, and have that person work across both the school and the town side. And I think there are opportunities for those types of things to happen. I don't know what all of them are because I don't understand the town side, and I think the town doesn't understand our side as well. So that's the logic behind the consultant. But I do believe it's going to be worthwhile in terms of either savings or, honestly, improving how we do business, and maybe other kind of. I really believe this is going to help people in some meaningful way, including the savings.
And has any effort been made to sort of, at least on an ad hoc basis, evaluate, amongst the two groups, that is the school and the town, where these efficiency opportunities are versus spending $75,000.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if, because that might give us a better clarity and a foundation to say, yeah, you know what, it's worth it because we already see these 5 potential opportunities. And then with the introduction of the consultant, we may then double that and see 10 additional opportunities. Therefore, we expect, greater than $1 million, value here, something to that effect.
Right.
So has any kind of ad hoc preliminary assessment been done to support
I mean,
the acquisition?
just talking from our AFC of the past, we've asked for this for as long as I've been on the board. Someone on our committee would say, is there anything we can do? Say custodians, electricians, HVAC, plowing buildings, doing this, doing that. Is there any way that we can achieve efficiency by having the school and the town work together? So maybe you have 3 people here, 3 people here. So, eventually you only need 5 to do the whole thing. I don't know.
I think,
But to me, this is exactly what we've been asking for in terms of think a little out of the box. Let's see what we can do. And if $75,000, you could save that easily per year if you just have 3/4 of an employee different.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't see winding this up that you have to invest 75 to get $10 million out of it. It just.
I think $10 million would be pretty unrealistic. I do think, it is, my understanding is there would be a joint committee formed between select board and the school committee to inform the process, because you need to have somebody come in and work with a group of people who are going to sort of surface the opportunities that are there. And yeah, if we were able to take 3 positions and combine them into 2, we have done the work already. We've made up the difference at that point.
Or you find out you can't, and that's valuable to us too, because maybe we would stop asking.
Well, it also came up at the tri-board meeting, right?
Yes.
Because if you even look a little broader scope, you could look at all the infrastructure support groups that support the schools and the town.
Right.
So you get synergies potentially, right? You understand if you have synergies, HR, finance, any of those groups that support both organizations.
Purchasing,
Yeah, purchasing's a great one, right? So, yeah.
So Roger, we, at least as a committee, we've thrown out strong positions in the past of what we thought might be savable. And again, we're not the experts. So anyway, I applaud
We've
doing the study.
armchair quarterbacked at least a
Really
dozen
applaud doing the
options for
study.
you guys.
Bring in someone with expertise that can sort of facilitate that conversation
Objective.
between the 2 boards.
I think I just need to have a little more clarity. I'm just, unless I see the data, I'm hopeful that there has been either some ad hoc effort or there's some clear data that gives me a sense of the probability of cost savings upon this $75,000 outlay. But right now, I'm kind of not seeing that. I'm confident in the capabilities of, our esteemed guest here that just on a cursory basis, we could probably collectively come up with a $75,000 opportunity for savings without a consultant. So anyway, so trying to understand better and how that would work.
I mean,
Yeah, please go ahead.
no, I would just say, I am having kind of just gone through a redistricting process where we hired a consultant. I am a fan of really getting some outside view and expertise. And I think particularly when you have, two governing boards, two different budgets, two different kind of HR departments, there's a lot, different contracts, there's a lot to kind of work through in that situation. And having someone who has some experience for not only what positions are going to possibly be affected, but how to do the work well of divvying them up, I think that could be incredibly valuable. You wouldn't want this effort to get killed off because we get caught wrangling over a contract issue.
And what
that's
we're not
really
addressing either is learnings, right? You're going to learn what the other part of the organization does. You should be
Absolutely.
yeah, bringing up like best practices or better practices. So
Sure.
I think at a minimum, you're going to learn, right, something better, right, of how to do things better. And
I
maybe
think that-
more effectively across the board.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, right? I think historically what we have seen, so a lot of these studies have just come up with diagnosing the staffing or the structural needs and recommended some staffing increases out of these studies, which means permanent budget growth. That's what it has ended up with. And that's not what I think. Yes, we are all in support of the studies, but that's something we are very skeptical about as well, that, okay, supporting a study means another, support for diagnosing your staffing currently and saying we need more staff to fix these problems out there. So, and coming to Saroja's point, right, I think it's a huge opportunity. I absolutely support that. I mean, transportation, payroll, facilities, like you said, benefits, somewhere maybe we have some benefits administration where it can be improved. So I think if this article can be presented to the town with what specific, like Saroja said, specific areas, would it be, if it's staffing, then it's staffing, but if it can be very clear about which particular area, maybe IT services, maybe HR, maybe procurement, something. So if you have identified already that this is where consultant will come in and focus upon, I think that will give a lot of confidence.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to add one more thing. I think what you also want to think about is we believe that this consultant will give us this miraculous insight. However, what happens if the consultant doesn't provide that insight? What are our, because this would also help, I think, as a towns member to feel more comfortable with this. What happens if the consultant is actually not that insightful? And what is our success criteria for success?
We may be able to build that into the contract. I was going to say, I think you could make a
Good.
But it would be good. I think it would be good for us to know that if we're going to, we as a town, to support this. That there's clarity around failure, clarity around success, and the other points.
All right.
So I think that'll be part of the statement of work that you'll be creating. But overall, I mean, I think the article's pretty clear in the objective, right, to recommend operational efficiencies.
Yes.
So including blah, blah, blah.
So I'm inclined to say that staffing studies are staffing increases, have been since time immemorial in all the years I've been doing this. This isn't that.
Right.
So this is a study that's coming at it about efficiency. And I think what I've seen, especially from Christy and what she's driven from her teams preceding you, is that she makes an effort to make sure that the results of these studies play out, whether it's the senior survey or the many different things we do around here. So we can study stuff all we want, but I think the value in knowing that there's an opportunity here is that if there are findings that I believe I have faith so far, I've been given faith that there will be an effort to see it through. Yes. And I will say the conversation about an introspective version of whether or not we can find any savings of our own, that's going to be just about as good as trusting the people who are watching the hen house to be able to tell you that the hen house is totally safe. I would like to have that, there's a value in a dispassionate perspective to be able to say, these are the things you can do. And then we should be making sure Christy, as she has historically done, we're not her parents, but to make sure we push back on the findings, to see that there is going to be value. So I entirely get where you're coming from, but I also say that, that the step back from another perspective is going to be more valuable than, with all due respect, trusting, the fox to say the hen house is good. Let's say.
Probably haven't been called that this year.
No, not yet. I mean, after the snow day, there were a couple names that came my way, but that was it. That was not one.
Any other question? Let's move ahead. Yep.
All right, and the final article up here is that property transfer. As I said, that's 115 East Main Street, which many people actually assume is school property. It's just adjacent to the early childhood center between there and the temple, and that is currently town property. There used to be a home on it that was taken down when it was taken over by the town. So we're looking for care, custody, and control in order to explore the option of an egress on that side of the building and maybe some reconfiguration of parking. That is really a safety-driven question. We've been looking at the Hastings parking lot, and it's a tricky space because of the different pickup, drop-off, the age of like little tiny children coming in and out of the preschool, and the way the traffic backs up because of the inability to make a left turn efficiently out of there. So we're hoping for a relatively
Will there
simple
be any
solution.
cost associated with this transfer?
No cost for this transfer. Assuming, I don't know if the town wants to charge us or could. I hope not.
Charging
And
themselves.
That's legal fees.
I didn't think so.
Just legal fee.
You have to register
Okay.
deeds, which goes into our community
Yeah, it seems
preservation
like the,
fund.
That should be no cost. And, in terms of that sort of positions us again, then to sort of study the bigger picture. What do we want to do in that parking lot? What do we want to do? Where do we want to situate the playground? How can we kind of do all that work in the relatively near future? Just a reminder, we did have a lot of requests that we did not put into the budget, and kind of here is a little bit about what they are. We had some things related to our elementary priorities, some high school programming, and some technology requests. And, so I mentioned them so that, you won't be surprised if you see them crop up in the not too distant future when hopefully we have the capacity to do that. I do know, I know that the committee had asked for, and we had shared a spreadsheet around staffing.
I was going to talk about that.
I figured I'd just get right to it and put it up on the board in case you wanted to ask questions about it.
For starters, thank you. This came out of an ask from Terry and I.
Sure.
I adore this composition on two fronts. One, that we have it put together, but you actually did the work of going through and normalizing this data over 5 years, which had never been done. So thank you. I think that's hugely important. And I think that there's still an opportunity to tease it apart a little bit, because there's something just inherently there's something of a disconnect when the student population can drop by 200, and the FTE, or the school and educators, can stay essentially the same from 25 to 26, and yet there's no appreciable difference in the numbers that are presented here. But that's just me nerding out on data. I think that I'm going to be using this in the off season to be able to tuck in a little bit more, but I'm glad you're sharing it here, because I think there's a real benefit to seeing this normalized over time.
Sure.
Really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I am happy to provide that. And for context, one of the tricky things about enrollment is we are always running behind it. So as enrollment climbs, we're never quite keeping up with it in terms of adding staff. As it drops, we're never quite keeping up with it in terms of subtracting staff. We're always sort of a little bit behind that process. So the reductions that were made last year, were made in our K-3 staffing of 5 positions, and that was that was after enrollment had dropped, not when it had dropped. And so I think we're going to continue to chase it as we go, because we can't make the cuts without knowing for sure that they're okay to make. And so I think that's part of the issue with especially teachers. The issue around paraprofessional support is trickier. It's more nuanced and it's more tied to student need, frankly. And so those numbers are never going to exactly track with what we're seeing. And, I am happy to say that we are very invested in looking at our programming and our programmatic structure. Our new student services director is sort of digging in with the coordinators to take a look at that, because that's going to be our best bet to make sure we're doing all we can to kind of contain those costs.
Well, and one of the places that did pop early on is just as a top level number that obviously needs to be pulled into. So this is not an attack. Yeah. Enrollment has dropped 5%. Admin has increased 5%. Yeah. So I know one of those is somebody who's doing budget writing, but I think that those numbers, to somebody who's just looking at this for the first time, educators are always going to be, xylophoning with a population. More kids, more educators, fewer kids, fewer educators. But admin, you would imagine, stays fairly stable, just like the school support, the admin services, the tutors, very stable. But the administration layer just doesn't. I guess there's a story to be told as to why it is growing over time when the population is decreasing.
So I think, Andrew, if we looked at, so I inserted a couple extra columns in there.
Yep.
So I tried to redo it for the curriculum coordinators that moved into the admin line. Right. So that kind of distorted the data. So the actual admin line is pretty flat.
It is very flat. Yeah, I think the issue there is about
reclassification.
Where we're reporting people. So a group of educators who are coordinators are sort of middle administrators. They're not doing full-time teaching, but they're doing a lot of support of other teachers and curriculum work. They had been in the teachers union and were moved out into this different line, so a different part of the budget. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. The one question I had on the paraprofessionals is where they've grown so much, do you have flexibility to move them, year after year with kids who need a paraprofessional assignment? Can you at some point move them into the elementary grades, which is kind of your ask as well? Do you,
right. Yeah.
I just don't appreciate that.
That's a great question. They are hired at the school level, but essentially everyone is a district-wide employee. So and we see this during times of reduction. If we have to make a budget reduction, we may end up, or in redistricting, we may end up moving staff from one school to another in order to make the whole project work. And that's definitely true for our paraprofessionals. It's true for all of us. We need to go where the need is. We are looking, when I talk about looking at programs, part of looking at things programmatically is, are there ways to group kids or assign kids into classes so that we can have the staffing ratios work for a group of students as opposed to one or two students having that sort of identified individualized support. So if we build really, really strong programs, you can actually sort of back off the number of adults. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question? I just want to finish up with the fact that, just to let you know, Superintendent, that this request of I was going through some past minutes and articles, and I figured out that somebody in 2025 annual town meeting had asked that, where is our school spending? Where is the middle management?
Yes.
And all those kind of questions. And I think this is the perfect response to that. So I know that with the data comes a lot of questions, like Andrew had asked, but I think if we can go to the town just saying that, yep, we do have this study breakdown now. I'm not sure, I'm still torn in between whether we should show this detailed numbers without actually formulating a story behind it, like we just discussed about how the movement has happened. But I think this is fantastic. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything else?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Anita and to Tammy Costello, who is our HR director. They're really have done a lot of work during the time I've been here on kind of pulling together and making sure we have good numbers that we're able to provide for you and have been really helping drive us forward in terms of providing more information and just sort of more transparency into what goes on in the budget. So I work with fantastic people.
Thank you.
So.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something when we're talking about these studies. I keep hearing every time we do a staffing study, we just get more staff, and that's the result of these studies. And I just, I can't say it enough. If you go and look at the page on the website with all the reports and assessments, there is one study that only gives recommendations related to staffing, and that's the police department study, and it's for one rank. If you look at, unfortunately, it's called the non-public safety staffing study, but there are over 50 recommendations in that study, and only 4 or 5 of them equate to a financial impact related to more staff. There are many recommendations in there that were non-financial and did not add staff. So I just think it's really important when we're thinking about these studies that we're not characterizing them as just adding staff type of study, because that's not what we're asking for. Thanks.
To know. Thank you, Christine. Okay, we next move to the Westborough TV with their articles.
Make sure they talk into the microphone.
I got reminded from John. I don't think we have to remind them.
Hi, good evening. Steve Hart, Westborough TV, board member.
You're used to saying chair. He's
Yeah.
not the chair anymore. Karen Henderson, I'm the general manager at Westborough TV.
Sorry, if you don't mind me, you may want to bring the second microphone in front as well. That might help make it more louder to the folks.
That one doesn't load.
If I may just, one slight correction. This is not Westborough TV's warrant article. This is an article presented by the Community Preservation Committee in regard to our request for a grant.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's correct.
And you'll be happy to know, as the AFC, that, oh my gosh, I'm just hoping my computer actually connects up since it's over 10 years old. Because when you're a
thinking of
nonprofit, you don't buy new equipment very often. It still has Windows 7.
Oh my God.
So the last chair really
fine.
left you in some equipment.
I know that chair is really very cheap, very cheap. But good evening. Thank you so much for having us. Not optimal resolution. We're going to not worry about that. But we are here about the preservation and rehabilitation of the historic windows through that Community Preservation Committee funding. And it's for that Westborough Savings Bank, the building at 33 West Main Street. And we love our building. And we're going to try to advance our slide.
That's
To be
a
clear.
Windows 8 feature.
There we go. Great. What's our asset? It's a 1928, coming on 100 years now, classic revival structure. It's a contributing element to the West Main Street Historic District. What we'll be doing is restoration of 18 original windows. They're suffering from glazing failure and rot. Westborough TV is committing $20,000 toward the envelope work. I learned all these new words working on the building now, but we're going to work on the entire envelope of the building. So that's going to include the windows. There's a lot of mortar repairs around the top, all the dental work there that need to be fixed, and the cast iron grates that are around all those historic windows. And it's a great time to kind of, if we can do all of those together, it makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want to fix the windows and still leave some of the mortar problems that we have at the top of the building, because then it would just be dripping down and corroding the windows that you've just put in. So our ask is the $127,900 from the CPC Historic Preservation Funding. Just want to make it clear, there's no further tax impact. I don't want to say there's no tax impact, because we all know that that CPC money is coming from all of us as taxpayers, because we voted for that Community Preservation Act a few years ago. That money has now been building up, and so it will be coming out of that account. So I think it's important to know there's no, won't have a tax impact on people this year for this particular project, because it is coming out of those funds. Understanding those funds are from taxpayer dollars. Understand that clearly. Historical significance. It's a town landmark. We have this Renaissance classic revival style with cast concrete. It's part of the West Main Street Historic District on the National Register. The defining architectural element is the fenestration. So I'm teaching you all new words. But those large Palladian double hung windows, a lot of times I'll tell people when I say I work at Westborough TV and they'll say, oh, where is it? Or it's downtown. And I'll say, across from Town Hall, I'll say, oh, the building with the big windows. So very well known by people in town as you're driving through. Here's some of the pictures of things that are going on over there. There's some glazing failure and wood deterioration, corroding of the security grills, and without intervention, we lose some of that, risk losing that wavy old glass that's there. One thing that's come up is, why restore instead of replace? And definitely, first of all, it is less expensive to restore than to replace. We had gotten different quotes along the way, but significantly higher, as well as the fact that it would not then keep with the historic nature of the building if you're changing to aluminum or to vinyl, and you get kind of your longevity of those is going to be much less than if you stick with the current wood.
May I just come
Sure.
in there, Karen? Yeah, just to slightly expand on that, because some people may say, hey, it's easy, call a window company and just have them replaced. The fact is that yes, we could do that. Yes, it would cost us at least twice the price, if not more. It would also not be in the material that is there today. It would likely be plastic, and guess what? It would probably weigh so much that we would need an army of cranes to actually install and so on. But key to this is that the CPC, as we call it, are bound by certain rules and regulations. So the CPA fund is governed by not just state regulations, but also federal when it comes to historic properties. And so the federal preservation standards, which we have to follow in order to use this money, are very clear. The core principles are retain the historic character, preserve the original materials, and use the gentlest means possible. So already we're constrained in what we can do if we are to use CPC funding for this project or any other historic project in town. And then I've heard the question raised, whether here or at other boards, what is a historic resource? Why is, what does it mean, historic resource? Very simply, no, not simply, because it's written as a regulatory item. Building, structure, vessel, real property, document or artifact listed on the State Register of Historic Places, we've already covered that, or determined by the local Historic Preservation Commission to be significant in the history, archaeology, architecture or culture of the town. And then rehabilitation is about making capital improvement or extraordinary repairs to make assets functional for intended use, including improvements to comply with the codes for rehabilitation of historic premises. And so we're working within that framework by you trying to use this money which is already there, to help pay for a building that fits the criteria.
Steve, if we are being governed by federal and state to preserve based on the standards they have, if we are being asked to preserve the historic value of this by federal and state agencies, can we get any kind of funding from them?
The CPC's fund, the CPA fund, actually does receive a certain amount of state funding.
Oh, it does.
The town CPC fund actually does have an amount of state contribution.
Okay,
So
it's not all taxpayers' money.
Yes, so
Correct.
Okay.
That was one of the reasons to do it, actually, Chris, when when the town was trying to decide whether or not to support the CPA, some of it was, well, the state does give you a match. So in addition to being able to raise money in that fund, you have that match coming in from the state, which is nice.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
about 15%.
I was going to say 15 or 16%.
Yeah,
I've
somewhere.
seen. Yep. So scope of the work, we've got these 18 units, we've got the 8 Palladian double hungs, we've got 7 standard double hungs, we've got 3 just the fixed arches. I won't go through the whole process, but it's, I was watching when you guys were talking to Assabet, vocational high school, who I love. We've had a lot of co-ops that have come to us from them. As a matter of fact, Aiden Horgan, who works for us, was a former Assabet student. So near and dear to our heart, but it's definitely not a job for students. It is a massive job. They will be coming, they will take those windows out, they will be bringing them to their studio, kind of like what's been done at the library. I'll get a little bit more into that, but there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done, removing all of those large, very large windows. And we will be using these specialists in historic buildings. The preferred vendor that we went with, we got a few quotes. We had 2 higher quotes. I was very happy that the one that I really wanted to go with, Old Bostonian, was the best quote for us on this restoration. They are the ones that are restoring the windows at the library currently. So one of the things we talked to them about is if the timing works out, we would love to use the plywood that is currently in all the windows at the library, because they have the windows out at their location, that we'd be using that plywood just to reuse that. There's a little bit of greenness there, but also giving us a 15% savings on when they have to block up all of our windows. So it's a great company. They've done a whole bunch of work on historical buildings around the state, a lot in Boston. Again, I talked a little bit about kind of the return on the investment of sticking with the current windows that we have and restoring those. And one of the things is going forward, our Westborough TV's facility budget would take care of painting and maintenance of those windows on along the lines of what Old Bostonian tells us we need to do in terms of when we need to do those projects. Those would not involve taking the windows out again. The other thing is we will be working on more than just that. So Westborough TV is committing to providing the $20,000 in order to do the masonry work that needs to be done around the building. We already have a quote on that, and we are kind of waiting for this before we move forward with that. But we will be doing our own fundraising to raise that money to contribute toward that effort.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point in case anybody's under any misapprehension. That is not an amount that's coming out of the budget request we have of the town under a different article. This is us fundraising.
Perfect. The project timeline is about 12 weeks. Like I said, there's a lot that goes on in terms of the removal, the off-site restoration, the on-site restoration, and then reinstalling all of the hardwood, all the hardware. There's we have again the $147,900 is our total estimated project cost. The $127,900 would be in those CPA funds out of that CPC account. And I think it's important to note if for some reason it comes in less than that, I think you all know, but the way the CPC will work is we will give them invoices, they will pay us for those. If there's money left over, that will just remain in that CPC account. I don't know if there has to be a vote to make sure that that is no longer earmarked for us, but of course, if we don't need any extra money and we save some money somewhere, we will not be able to spend it. Again, it's in line with the CPC funding eligibility. You know, Steve was reading from the chart, and if you've seen the CPC chart, it's very specific on what those funds can be spent on, and we fall within that chart. We're also in line with the master plan of the town, talking about our building being in that historic district and kind of that downtown vitality of maintaining a vibrant, active downtown center. We have community support from the Historical Commission, from the Historical Society, the Westborough TV Board, and obviously the CPC did vote to put this and to recommend it for town meeting. And another thing is the building is open and accessible to the public. Many of you have been there before. If you haven't, I invite you to stop in. People stop in all the time to see it because this was my first bank and I put my first dollar in here, and they love to come see our old vault and love to look, you know, when you're inside and you look out those windows at Town Hall and over to the cemetery in Forbes. It's a beautiful building. I feel so much responsibility for it. So I'm hoping we can get this to happen and feel like no matter what down the line might be there, when the building has been taken care of, you won't be at risk for those windows being ripped out and some other kind of windows being put in there. And that's kind of our summary. That'll do it. It's 11C. It's the CPC's article. Happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
So that number is now based on a quote that you received. So
Correct.
okay, and the second question is, a lot of these things, there's some kind of contingency fund, but is that just your own risk or something you're taking on? There's no specific contingency.
Right. We don't have a contingency. I mean, what would happen, by the way, if it was $10,000 more than that, we would get a maximum of 127.9 from the CPC.
CPC.
So that 10 would be on us to do a little more fundraising. You'd see
Using
a
at your
bigger
own risk.
thermometer out in front of Westborough TV.
Yeah.
Reduction elsewhere.
There'll be no new computer.
For years to come. Good, Andrew.
The number that really changed my opinion on this, because I always thought that this was going to be a historical renovation tax, was the fact that with 18 windows, that's about $7,100 a window to fix, which if you look at a window like that, to replace a window like that for 70 or fix it for $7,100 per window, that's
Yeah.
a hell of a deal. So that was one thing I wanted to put out there. That's a number that changed the way I looked at that 127. Also, as a quick clarification,
Interesting comment, because I think we certainly we met with each of these the bidders, 3 of them.
Learned a lot
and
about
we
windows.
we learned a lot, but also I have to say that my estimation was much higher.
So were some of the quotes we got early on.
and just an observation, the most recent warrant also says that the 127.9, it's actually coming $91,085 is coming out of the CPC historic, but there's also $36,815 that is coming out of the CPC general reserve, just in terms of not calling this all the money from the CPC historical. It's not. It's really broken between the two. Just an observation.
Right.
Correct.
I think it's a little bit confusing. It's unfortunate that it has to get broken up because so the CPC, right, as those funds are collected, 10% has to go in each of the 3 buckets. So 10% in affordable housing, 10% in open space and recreation, 10% in historical restoration, rehabilitation, preservation. And then the other 70%, they can take a portion to use for admin costs. And the rest of that bucket, 70%, give or take, can then be divided amongst those other 3 in any way that the CPC sees fit. So they have to put at least 10% of that money that they're collecting from us into each of those buckets. And then they can decide on the other 70%, do they want to put all that 70% into historical renovation? Do they want to take a little bit? But that's why it's broken up that way. So it is all CPC funds. It won't have any, there's no raise and appropriate. It's all coming from that CPC bucket.
Understood, but I think the statement made early on was 127.9 from the CPC historic. And it's not, it's
I gotcha.
just,
Okay.
that was the clarification I wanted to
Appreciate
make.
it. And
We're nerds here
I'll
for
change
that.
the wording in case at town meeting we
I
end up
think
having to
yeah,
present.
the
Thank you.
the cemetery work is also historic preservation, so we probably emptied that bucket.
Right,
right.
right. The hundreds
And they
coming
We
out.
spend
Could have split that
Yeah.
one, but they split this one.
cost for
But you're
headstone.
right. You're right. I want to be. I always,
Bucket's empty for now.
But there's the 1 million plus that sits in the sort of general fund, if you
Yeah.
like, can be redistributed across the historic, the 3 buckets.
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy that the CPC, is that there were people that applied for grants, but there's still going to be money in there going forward, which again, as a resident, I'm happy to see that and know that we can keep growing that fund to do other good things with.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I just had one question. So while this work is done, and I apologize if I missed that part, will the building still be operational while this window replacement happens, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. It absolutely will. We'll be using the plywood on the top part of the windows, the bottom part, for at least part of it, we will have some plexiglass so that we're not completely in a cave for months. But we will be. We're offering camps this summer. Sign up. Everybody's kid loves it. But we will stay completely operational this summer.
If you look at the library building, our windows are out now, and there's plywood over most of it, but there's a plexiglass rectangular piece in the middle of each one to let some light in. It's the same idea. They took those windows and they bring them back.
So
And-
Karen
and I
doesn't
did
have to
see
walk with a
part
headlight?
of a photo of one that was being restored and actually looked quite nice. So I think these people did good work.
I just see you walking around with a little miner's cap.
Yeah, we'll get her a headlamp. Steve will buy her a headlamp.
We'll see. We'll see if he lets us. It's not in the budget.
I appreciate the plan and the presentation.
I'm
Thank you.
shocked that it's that quick because it seems like the library windows have been gone a long time, but I don't think I think they're waiting to replace them once they've gotten the other work inside done. It's
Right.
not that the windows are
Right.
taking that
Well,
long.
that kind of ties
Yeah.
into our project. We're going to do the windows at the same time we do the grading outside because there's less, I mean, they can do that while we don't have windows in there, so they don't break the windows while they're doing that, and the mortar at the same time. So I think it'll be a really nice facelift for that building.
Awesome.
Just one comment on the part where you said there won't be any additional tax dollars collected from the residents. That needs to be a little bit more clear, because when I read that, it wasn't clear. I was thinking that there would, I mean, this is an additional cost to the town. So somehow if you can re-articulate that, that will be helpful.
Right.
Again, I have to make an assumption that the vice chair or vice chairs of the CPC will be the ones that introduce this article.
Okay.
They're more expert on the CPC and how it works than we are. We're really here to speak. We just have learnt a lot during the process.
Okay.
Right.
So you won't be presenting this at the town meeting?
We may be called upon, but that would be, we'll certainly work in conjunction with the vice chairs of the CPC.
Right.
And
Right, but many common people who are attending the town meeting might not catch it very easily.
You're making a great point. So a couple things in that regard. We had Jim Ball and Julia O'Neill Welch come in to Westborough TV to do a show just about the CPC funds, and because it is the first time we're going through
Yeah.
disbursement of the funds. We had talked with Christy, and Jim was going to be talking to John Arnold about having a little time to explain to everyone, okay, we signed up for this a couple years ago, we voted on it as town meeting, and this is how the process works. So maybe a little bit more of an explanation than they might need to give in future years. But yes, that would be the understanding. I will definitely make it clear in here, to Andrew's point about, where that money is coming from. But I think it would be helpful for residents to understand it. That's why it's a little bit too bad that it's split up in ours, because I think that'll be one more thing that will confuse people. But hopefully Jim can give a good explanation of that so people understand how this fund's supposed to work.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if that they would make the motion probably, but I think having the people that are the experts in what they're doing, like, historical commission, yourselves being available for questions is probably essential, right? Because
we,
Yeah, I would say it's similar to the capital plan.
yeah,
Right, so, does anyone,
One motion and then everyone.
right, does anybody have a
explains their own
question?
thing.
Yeah.
I think you can be assured we will be primed and ready.
Will I have a new laptop or no? I could ask.
Roger, you have any
Well,
questions?
you
before they
send your
leave?
slides in, they all get displayed by
That's true.
Thank you for your time.
by
you
Mark
so much.
Knox.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Prashant, if I may ask, Laura, who is going to be the EDC, Economic Development Committee, she was on and she got kicked off around 8:20.
She's on?
She is on?
I'm here now.
Okay, great.
got
Thank
back
you.
on.
Sorry, I can't see the names clearly up there. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the patience and getting there. I think you have been on for quite a while, and I know it's been a pretty long night. So go ahead, Laura.
I was wondering who that was.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Laura Crawford. I'm Economic Development Coordinator. I'm not able to share my slides. But
I
I think he can let you.
Why? Yeah.
I think he has to enable it. That's all.
Oh, okay. I'll give it a second.
We did that last week, right? I don't remember how you did it, but you did it. Because we had the conservation
Yeah.
director.
Could you try now, Laura?
Let me see. Yeah. All right. All right. Can you see my slides?
Not yet.
At the moment.
Let's see. Screen on window. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, great. So again, my name's Lara Crawford. Thanks for having me on. I'm here to talk about the Economic Development Committee Small Business Grant Program and our return on investments for the town. Oops. Okay. So in a quick summary, we request $60,000 This year, we have had about 1.5 million in private investment that leveraged out the job creation and capital investment, which really just turns out to be about 27-1 in terms of public dollars. We had 11 grants over 4 quarters, and it's not an exact science. It's fourth quarter 2025, and then the first 3 quarters of 2026. The EDC is working, the committee is working on enhancing tracking and accountability measures, and should be out with some changes by the July 1st by 2027. And the grants are spread out among industry and new and existing businesses. So as a summary, and then I'll just jump into more specifics. Business profiles. So we had 6 new businesses that we funded and 5 existing businesses. 4 were in the fitness industry, 2 were restaurants, 3 were in health and beauty. There was a farm and 1 arts and craft business. 6 were downtown, 2 were in the gateways. 1 was on Turnpike East and 1 was on Turnpike West. And the farm, of course, is not in a part of town that I have a name for, so I just called it other. So on, in terms of return on investment, I just wanted to kind of go through just some of the numbers and my thinking about how I'm calculating it. So in, throughout those 4 quarters, we had a public investment of 53,000 and some change in terms of what monies we gave out. And then based off of the applications of and descriptions of projects and equipment that were given to us, we calculated out on an annualized basis $873,000 in payroll impact and $663,000 and change in capital investment. So the total of $1.5 million. So the ROI ratio is 27-1 based off of those numbers. Again, special conditions, it's fourth quarter 2025 and first 3 quarters of 2026. And also, I just want to note that the number of jobs and the investments this year were particularly high based off of the types of businesses that we invested in. And so I think that's why that number 27 is, I mean, I think it's great, but I don't know if we'll always have the number that high. So just to give a background on sort of how we calculated it, I took that final value, which is the capital investment of payroll and capital investment, 1.5. I subtracted out the initial value that the town invested at 53,000, so gave us sort of 1.4 million. And then if I just divided the 1.4 million by the 53, that's how we got to the 27. So it's a really simple return on investment, but it's a calculation that is used quite widely throughout finance. So in terms of an estimated tax impact, for every $1 of the town investment, $27 in private capital and payroll was generated. We had, commercial property improvements, which lead to an increased assessed value. We have payroll that supports all sorts of local spending, and we're supporting new businesses and enhanced services, which provide overall value to the town. And I just want to mention, even I'm happy to talk about what my assumptions were on payroll, but even if we took 50% of that total number, we would still be on a 13-1 ratio. And then finally, here is of the 11 businesses, here are who we invested in. And I hope that you're all visiting them throughout town. They're great businesses, and I was very happy to be a part of investing in them this year.
And that's my report. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm gonna stop sharing though, so I can see you, if that's all right.
Thank you, Laura. I think the purpose for having you and explain us this is also because we have a lot of newbies in the committee, and it's very helpful for you to actually show us this, which reminds us that how much of this value it is to be able to invest in our, I would say that people who are investing in our town in terms of businesses and also helping the town in terms of the value growth. Yep, go ahead, Potter.
I just want to thank you. We've been, I guess, doing these grants about 5 years, and Andrew will probably back me up, and Mike Peretti somewhere is backing us up on this. But we've been asking basically for this sort of data and analysis. And the first couple of years, it's really difficult because things just sort of happen. But as far as I'm concerned, you provided more information in your report here than we've gotten in the past 5 years, at least. I mean, you must be ecstatic, Andrew. I just know every year that would come up. Is there a way to measure? Is there a metric? Is there some way of knowing that yes, we're putting 60,000 out, but if we had put it in T-bills, would we have made more money than giving it to businesses? And I just applaud your effort into attempting to do that and also presenting data.
Absolutely. One thing which I would definitely add, you may get, Laura, is about kind of like a trend pattern. Like, okay, now that you have got this initial and final ready for each year, how have we been progressing across the years? Have we been on the upward trend in terms of ROI? What patterns have you been seeing, and what do you think?
So,
So I took a, oh, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Is that a question? I did take a look. So last year I did, I put together the presentation that Fred did last year as well. I just didn't have as much experience at the time. So I'm reading off some of my notes. The ROIs are really, if you think about it, it's really based off of the amount of investment that a particular business is putting in and the number of jobs that they create. And in this particular year, we had some high, we had businesses with a high head count. And we had businesses that put in $200,000 or more in investment. So we had greater leverage. It's
Sure.
just, I mean, we got to 1.5 million in terms of total investment. Where the last year's, Fred was here, what I did was I took the 23, 24, and 25 numbers together, added all of those up. And the ROI was only $8. So I'm not sure that we'll find that there's always an upward pattern, but that I think that is that if you're comfortable with the particular returns, right, at $5, $6, $10, $27, I mean, I think we're supporting businesses, we're supporting the greater assessed value of buildings and so forth.
I think
That should be kept in mind.
I think we were looking for at least an attempt to measure the success in some fashion.
Yeah.
Because in the first couple of years, the success was measured by descriptions of the businesses seem happy or whatever, and the fact that you're, for me personally, I don't care if there's an exact huge ROI. I think if you broke even, it would be great because you're building businesses in town and making our community better. But the fact that you're trying to track whether the program has value, so we would know, because I guess our original premise was, what if we put 200,000 in, would we, the town be overflowing with customers? Or, if you don't make an attempt to measure the success of the program, you don't know whether it's kind of okay, it's horrible, it's great. And so I guess we're just applauding your attempt, or I'm applauding your attempt to put some measurement on it so that we get that feedback.
Absolutely, I second that. I love this agenda. I've been on this, like I've been hearing this for, I think the third time now. But the way you have explained this, I'm not necessarily looking for at the moment on like $8 or $6 or 8 times. I think it's more of what are we seeing really with the investments we are making. So this is great. Yeah.
So whatever, reinforcing what other people have said, love that you're putting numbers to it. It's fantastic. I think the ROI number is kind of illusory for the simple reason that you pointed out that it changes over time.
Yeah.
I think the example from a couple of years ago is that we gave a grant to somebody who purchased a fridge so that they could hold more stuff and people could buy it more, but there wasn't a real easy one-to-one correlation. But what I think that there's still like opportunity to talk about, because the ultimate value of this isn't just ROI, because we can break even, we're fine. The value of this is driving businesses to stay here. So how do we measure businesses stay here, air quote? And I think one of the suggestions I've had in the past is, and this takes longer to trend over time, is obviously there are companies that apply for grants, and there's some who get them and some don't. We have a natural analytical pool here of companies who apply, who get grants. Are they still here 2, 3, 4 years later? Companies who apply for grants and don't get them, are they moving out more quickly, or are they closing down, or something like that? So the value of this as a program to keep businesses here, I think that there's a slightly softer number to go for that I think may be easier to get to, but it really speaks to the value of the program without a great sounding ROI this year, to be clear. But I think the ROI is secondary to or is supportive of the keeping businesses in town. So thank you for hearing me out. But you have the right mind for this. You're coming at this like as an analyst in a way I applaud. Other people have done a great job as well, but you've nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's a very important point that you're making, which is how many of the businesses that we have given grants to are still around. And I can certainly start working on bringing that number, getting more clarity around that. And with the committee, we have a small subgroup in our committee that's working specifically on more transparency and clarity around the grant program. And so I will certainly discuss this and see how we can better bring more clarity for you, for your committee as well.
Awesome.
And for the great work you do too. So not just us. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming.
Thanks
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
staying up late.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks for hanging in.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Take care.
So I guess.
Thank you.
Are they here to present something?
Are you going to present?
I don't know.
Thank you for the patience you have shown. You've been around for the stuff since the start.
Thank you. My name is George Bonan. I'm Assistant General Counsel at Ferris Development Group, and with me is our company's principal, David M. Ferris. We have a warrant article going to town meeting. I think it's number 34, and it's in regards to the rezoning of One Research Drive from the Industrial B to an Industrial D overlay district to highway business. And that's basically to benefit from the uses of that specific zone to bolster the office occupancy. But I don't want to take anything away, any talking points from my company's principal. He'd like to actually present for you. So I'll invite him up and invite him to speak to you. Thank you.
So I think we already had a presentation a few weeks back. Is this going to be some additional information?
Exactly. That's if that's okay.
Okay.
And it's now Article 33. Just for it changed. All of them changed, but they're done changing.
My lucky number, 33. Thank you very much for having me tonight. I listen to all these thoughtful articles, and I think about all the issues we deal with in our companies where you got to make these tough decisions, either, to get the boat under the bridge, you either got to lower the water or raise the bridge, raise the revenue or drop the expenses. And I hear all those requests, and they're all very challenging. And so I respect a lot the
the weeds that you have to go through and the heavy lifting and the benefit to the taxpayers. And my colleague, Brian Charvel, really appreciated his time with you, my general counsel, I think a week or two ago, and shared some of his meeting with me. And I wanted to take some time to really dig into the facts and share some information that I've learned since meeting with Brian, and just at a high level talk about why out of all your articles, I think this could be, frankly, your most compelling. And I say that with respect of, you know, we entered into Westborough probably 12 years ago. We made several investments that totaled roughly just under 50 million through a series of different buildings, one research drive being the flagship silver building, 4 and 8 tech drive across the street over on Technology Drive, and 29 research or 29 research that is now the proposed lab site for redevelopment, which is a pretty significant project. But I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to just talk at a high level why I think this is such a compelling opportunity for the taxpayers of Westborough. I think my colleague Brian spoke about the kind of top line potential tax revenue of $2 to $3 million. We're prepared to make $150 to $200 million investment in the back of this research drive area that currently has excess trucks parked on it. And you need only look a little bit to the left at the old BJ site that's being used as a staging area, correct. And the hope, I think, for the community, and the biggest lever I see for opportunity in Westborough, frankly, in the next 5 to 10 years, in terms of really making meaningful mitigation to taxes, is the site directly that is our neighbor and our direct abutter for that Alexandria lab project. If you conservatively think about lab investment, the construction cost on that is roughly $1,000 to $1,500 a square foot. So the investment amount is somewhere between $750 million to $1 billion in that one site that we sold to a crane company. We actually bought the back of that for very short money, like $750,000, and ultimately brought it to, you know, fix it up and sold it for $3 million. And a year later, the crane company sold it to Alexander for 13. So we left $10 million on the table, but nobody's perfect. In any event, I think that what I really wanted to spend time talking just very briefly with you about is some of the actual results we've been able to achieve in the community, because I think we have a very solid track record of increasing tax revenue. So, and I think to the point that you were talking about sustainable businesses staying here in Westborough, I was reminded yesterday when I was checking, we still actually manage one of the buildings for tech that we sold to Eversource, and Eversource was a multi-year process to bring them into the community, to get them seated in for Technology Drive. And I just found the dichotomy of this recent storm and seeing hundreds and hundreds of trucks parked at that DoubleTree that was filing for bankruptcy a couple of years ago, and now to see it as a vibrant hotel returning to occupancy levels, in large part because of its neighbor, Eversource, and its national command center that's managed 24 hours a day. And our company still manages that property for Eversource. And so they ultimately bought the property from us after they had engaged in some very long-term commitments. Next door, when you look at 8 Technology Drive, that was Marvell. Amazon was a small tenant in the building. HP left. We backfilled it. We pulled Marvell into the community, West Coast Semiconductor Company. That dramatically raised the value. But those 2 buildings, I think we paid about $24 million. I think they're on the books now somewhere around $40 million in value. So we're pretty good at repositioning distressed assets and making them vibrant. I think the world's changed significantly, and I think one of the biggest things I wanted to instill on this committee is your biggest, for lack of a better term, moonshot as a community to really make an impact that, you know, could be the game changer is really the project directly to the left of us, and it's that lab building. The market has spoken since it's been permitted for probably 4 years, and there's been very little to interest to actually come out of the ground and spend that and make that kind of investment. There's been a pretty material change in the last 30 or 60 days, where one of the largest sets of vacant land and tracts has recently been transacted to Connect Church, which is about 30 acres directly in the map. If you look on the handout that I gave you,
which would have been a nice, vibrant economic corridor that I think, if it had been rezoned, could have potentially been a really nice anchor of an attractive sort of complementary, retail or hotel or housing uses that would really attract a big lab tenant. People who are looking to make these kinds of investments are looking for mixed use to be nearby. And I think as the direct neighbor at One Research Drive, our investment into this asset has a very high return for the taxpayers. I estimate the cost to the community based on fire response and your roughly $11.5 million budget, I think, between police and fire, to be sub 1%. So that's sort of less than $100,000 or so. So how do you get to that number? You look at your total, call count between police, I think, is something like 29,000. And you look at how many calls would be expected from a project of the size that we're proposing. It's sub, 150. I could get you the exact numbers, but the impact for life safety for the community is relatively low. And then when you look at, and I think one of the things my colleague brought back to me was the school system concern. And I think that's always one of the biggest. And so what we try to do is really talk to different parts of the community and get estimates around the total cost of the student size. And you look at the Mass Department of Education cost website at a fully loaded, assuming no marginal costs, and as if you were hiring, teachers or whatnot, but you've already got the infrastructure. That number is kind of like 21,000 a year times a project of this size, if it's structured by the planning board the way the planning board would want, a 1 or 2 bedroom mix. I think the impact is sort of sub 20, probably more like 13 students. And so where do we get that math from? Madison Place in Southborough, with a 168 unit project, has had, since it's been open, 6 to 9 students. That's in the public record in the Southborough logs since that project was built. And it would have a similar kind of mix to what we're proposing, but all of those details would be worked out by the planning board. But I think the new project in town that's projected to be like really big, I think like 388, I think the math they're thinking is some impact to the school system of about 20. But if you look at the cost per student and you say it's somewhere around 21,000, and you assume somewhere around 13 to 15 students if we were to build this the way we'd propose. And by the way, it's just a proposal. I think the cost to the community with life, fire, and safety is sub 500K. I think the tax pull to this group would be north of 2 million, probably closer to 3 million on just the project we're proposing. The important piece of this handout that I gave you shows the historical tax rates that we paid on Research Drive and what happens when vacancy has fallen as it has. When we get higher vacancy, we get higher tax assessed values. So I think that the companies in the Metro West and other markets across the United States are all experiencing the same thing. Retail and multifamily activate office buildings. If you look at what we did at Southborough on Turnpike Road, we took 2 empty office buildings, 10 years, one that had 1 tenant left, the IRS, that got doged and is now closed. And we basically brought that building to 100% when in year 3, after we had completed the activation with the health and wellness concepts, B-Tone Fitness, Fresh Monkey that you have in your community, an indoor golf simulator. Those are the kinds of things that people are looking for when they're selecting office buildings. So I think backing up, the big question would be, well, wouldn't we want to think about a broad rezoning and impact a lot of parcels? And the answer for this committee would be absolutely not. And here's why.
Sorry, just
Yep.
conclude. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also.
Conclude?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the net of it is by this one parcel already has an office building on it. So we're going to be under very tight conditions of a planning board contingency. If you look at what we recently did in Marlborough, where we made contributions to fire and life safety and a ball field and whatnot, I think this could be on the order of a 7-figure contribution immediately that could fund most of these warrants tonight. And I think that if you look at what we've already done on these existing parcels in town, the track record, speaks to itself. And I think you know what's coming, which is tax parcels, 30 acres are coming off the tax rolls, and there's going to be a Dover Amendment proposal that's going to be the neighbor. And so it's kind of a game of musical chairs down there, and you don't have many spots left to activate this area. And that's why the map was put together, just to effectively show you there's one neighbor that can really make the difference of attracting that lab tenant. And that's really us, and we're prepared to make that large investment into the community. And we think it's the right place to do it. We really like Westborough a lot.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions?
Thank you. Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Rezoning one, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Next, we move on to the annual town meeting preparation. I think we are all pretty tired, which I can understand. So we'll skip that for now. I think we have the Monday meeting coming up, just to remind everybody. We'll start voting on the remaining articles. I don't think we have any presentation for Monday. So this Monday would be all dedicated towards.
Aren't the kids coming Monday?
They're coming Thursday.
They're coming
Oh,
on
Thursday. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
So-
Kids.
So I think we have heard pretty much from all the departments now that we had expected to. So we, except a couple of them, I think it's the citizens petition, and the other is there was one more article, I forget which one.
Well, there was some more information people wanted on audio visual upgrade.
Right, audiovisual, yep.
And then whether or not you can watch the select board if you want, but the other grant, which was the cemetery program, I don't know if people want to have historical commission here too, but
What's
they,
left on your
they
list,
did
Terry?
present.
You have a list, don't you?
Oh,
Of
that's
people?
my own personal list.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I think we had some, I think for the police, we already got it. So we heard it from police chief itself, so we don't need more information, I guess. For the audio visual, we requested information.
So I just wanted to say that I almost jumped out of my chair when I saw that select board thing to talk about the regionalization of the fire department. I mean, I just thought that was awesome. It's great to explore. I don't know if it'll work, but that's, again, it's something we ask questions like that all the time in here.
All right, can I ask the
Not
basic
doing-
question? Right, so all we hear from the fire department is he's got the busiest fire department,
But
right? Because he handles 495, right, and he handles 9. And I'm looking at Southborough going, why would Southborough want anything to do
Is they-
with Westborough?
because we mutual aid all the time.
Well, of course we mutual aid, but why would they
Big-
come into an agreement? What's in it for them? That was my only reaction when I saw the warrant articles. What's in it for them?
Better services
I mean, I
at
think
a
the
lower
reality
cost.
is, right, if we both need, what are they, the normal shift is 9, I think is what Chief Purcell has said, right? And so if we all have to schedule 9 people all the time,
Right,
in theory,
right.
could we have 6 and rely on them more? Probably not 6. But, you know, and I think that's it might not be cut in half, but it might
Oh,
be
no, because you're adding an area.
95%, right? Well, I mean, is of what we are already, our
Yeah.
total cost. Certainly combined, it would be more than our discrete. I'm just thinking, right,
Right.
could you save 5% off of what each of us are already paying by getting some?
Yeah, I'm just, and just, again, in the back of my mind, all I hear is, him saying he wanted 3 firemen and a deputy assistant. And that seemed like an immediate need. I don't, the regionalization is something that just popped up. So I think I just need to understand that and absorb it a bit more. Because, it was new to me when I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, well, all we're talking about is going to look at it, so we can't really absorb it yet because
Yeah.
until you do the study, we don't really know what it would mean or where it
Well,
would mean.
I know, but I look and go, it's a study, great, is it, what's the
something to say,
probability of
yeah.
it happening versus, can we hire a fireman, 1 or 3? So I won't be here to vote next week, so good luck.
Uh-oh.
John and I have been trying to attend your meetings. I think we've come to most of them, and
Yeah,
I hope you find that helpful.
Appreciate that. Yep.
I haven't been asked to present on any articles, and so that's fine. But I just want to make sure that I just want to be clear that I wasn't prepared to speak to the police department or the fire regionalization article tonight. So if there's a possibility of you holding that until we can actually give you presentations on those, I would appreciate it. Because I do think some of the things that you were talking about related to regionalization, some of the things we talked about a little bit earlier, could be better clarified if we were more prepared for that.
Yeah, I think it's more around the fire department. I think the police chief gave the presentation, so I think we don't have any more questions. I'm not speaking on anyone else's behalf, but I think we are good with
I mean,
all.
there was an excellent presentation by the fire chief at the select board
Yeah.
meeting. I mean, the only disadvantage is you don't get to ask your questions, but maybe your questions were answered, but I highly recommend watching that anyway. He made a good case for why you'd want to study it. Not that it guarantees it works, but that
Or
why
that
you'd
it's
want to
the
look
cost
at it.
savings.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
yeah.
want to be clear
But
about that.
a lot of it had to do with opportunity potentially for better service, because as you recall, like sometimes the ladder truck's out of
Right.
service, right? But maybe you'd still have a ladder truck between the two groups of people.
Well, I
And they
guess-
work together all the time, pretty much anytime there's anything of significance.
Right.
So,
And I guess that's why there was discussion tonight about sort of the opportunity to do that study and this organizational study at the same time. And I think I just want to make sure it's clear that they're very different, which is why. But if you feel like you have enough information, then that's certainly up to you.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think by Monday
think
we
the
can
clarity was there.
get a response after folks
yeah,
have
well, I guess
watched
the question
select
is,
board.
does the committee want the chief
Yeah,
to come and tell it or not? I mean, I'm satisfied from what I saw already myself, but that's me.
exactly.
There's 8 other people here that have to decide that, not me.
Exactly, and I would encourage if we can watch the select board meeting because I
Know
watched
which
that as
date the
well.
select board
Yeah.
meeting
Yeah, it
was?
was Tuesday night.
Tuesdays, okay.
So,
And if you know, you can thumb through and find the chief there pretty quick.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zip through.
Because they're like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
5 hours, exactly.
Well, we're heading in that direction right now.
No, we're sitting down.
Okay, awesome. So we are next. So yeah, Monday we will discuss and vote on the remaining articles as much as we can, as well as the operating
Oh.
budget.
So I do have one question, which maybe you do have to prepare for, but yeah, the operating budget. Are there any I mean, we're still working out of a budget book, so are there any that are changed or will be changed before we could wait to vote those versus others? So if you could at least let us know which ones
I can
those
tell
are.
you there's 4, so I can tell you right now. Obviously your budget books are not updated with the ASABIT number, but you know what that is. The police department number will be different based on Chief Minardi's contract recently being approved. We are still working with the patrol union as well, and you'll see that, or you have probably seen that there's a new Article 6, which would retro fund this current year if we were to reach an agreement with them. And then debt is another one. So we always get our bids back on debt really close to town meeting. So we're expecting those on Tuesday. So you'll get that number. We can get that to you on Tuesday. And then you'll have that to vote Thursday. And then the last one is insurance. So we also expect to have that number next week. So those 4.
So Asabet, police, debt, and insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. And the others we could base off the budget.
Great. Okay,
to know.
we'll skip the liaison reports unless they are very pressing or something to be talked about. Let's move to the approval of the available minutes. I hope everyone has gone through Feb 19th. Minutes, I'm sure you know that AI develops it, but then we can tweak it the way we ask. So you must have seen an extra section there which says discussions which happened before we actually voted. So that was also, but thanks for that input. And I think if there's anything else you need, we can tell the AI to record that as well.
Did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, I just went in and did the, when we have people that are remote, we have to say it's by roll call vote and call out anybody who voted differently.
Different. Got it. Good to know.
So
Yep.
I did add those in based on that,
Perfect.
but it was, yeah, like you said, it's 90% of the way there, or 95 or 99.
So the good part is any changes that you suggest, next time it can be incorporated. Like, for example, if you said that, well, we had those discussions, where did those discussions go? So now you tell next time that I want this to be recorded as well, any discussions that happen, and not just the roll call, it will do it.
And if I edit, does it just automatically save it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all on the
Google
on
Docs or
the
whatever they
SharePoint.
are, whatever share
Because I
thing
made,
it is.
there were a couple of spelling things. That
Yeah,
I took
it
care of.
does.
Grammar.
That's kind
Yeah,
of cool.
and keep my name out of the minutes next time, so I don't get called out by the chief again.
Oh, he watched. He
Yeah,
saw
Oh, I know he
watched.
did. I know he did.
Yeah,
He was looking right at me when he said that, so
perfect.
I owned
So
up to it.
we are ready to vote.
I'll move to accept the minutes of the, was it the
Feb 19th.
February 19th.
Bradley, second.
Any discussions? Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap yes.
Hansoka, yes.
I will abstain because I was not present. Kumsia abstaining.
And Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
Awesome. So we are approved on the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you very
701.
much for February 19th,
7:01, I think.
7:01. Yep.
Which is when we started.
And this is the vote to adjourn now.
Move to adjourn.
Clap second.
Ahuja, yes.
Angelakis, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Clap yes.
Hansoka, yes.
Kumsia, yes.
Leslie, yes.
O'Day, yes.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, Westborough TV, and thank you, Westborough.
Thank you,
Thank
especially
you, guys.
Thank you.
kept you up
Good
late
night,
tonight.
bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Cheers.
Bye, Soraya.
Muck up the voting.
Don't muck